So now, this is an interesting one from William Molina Jr. Subject is Eric Bischoff disrespecting Ric Flair. Hello, K100 crew. In a recent Instagram post, the iconic Ric Flair raised concerns about not receiving the due respect for Eric Bischoff. Bro, these guys just keep bringing this up. It's a feud that will
25
never
years
end,
old.
right? Number one, I guess Flair, got on Bischoff.
Well, you
again.
guys
Maybe
were
Bischoff,
probably. He's actually referring to, you guys are probably both there, the meeting that Eric had in like Minneapolis.
Well, that's what I was going to say. No, here's what I'm going to say.
Gone,
Let me finish the email. Let me finish the email.
I'm sorry. Yep.
During the tenure of Conan and Disco Inferno with WCW, were there any instances, any of them observed or heard, where Eric might have shown a lack of respect towards Flair? And number two, were there moments where Eric Bischoff might have shown disregard or lack of respect towards either Conan or Disco during their time in WCW? Well, absolutely. Okay, first of all, Flair, we had a meeting, and Bischoff was in front of everybody telling he was going to bankrupt Flair. Or what was the verbiage here? Remember Conan? He was just ripping him.
Right.
I'm like, bro,
Flair,
I was.
What had happened was Flair.
Let me finish it here because I wanted to tell.
Yeah.
Because we were like the young cats.
Then why do you ask me?
So this is like,
you're not going to let me
well,
finish.
but I'm saying, but I want to get my thing first. We were like the young cats, and we were like we grew up watching Ric Flair. This is like, now we're backstage and like the guy's ripping the guy. Like I thought that was like, I was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. Like, what was your take?
Exactly the same thing, because even though Rick could be obnoxious when he was drunk and say a lot of stupid, he was still Ric Flair, bro, and he was the best. He was the best, and he was so charismatic, and you have to give him a respect in that thing, right?
Right.
But he was saying, yeah, because what had happened was, for the people that don't know, is Flair didn't show up for work because he went to a wrestling meet with his son. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe he didn't tell Bischoff. I don't know, but he was under contract.
Bischoff said no, and Rick still went, basically.
Okay, so he had a meeting, and he was probably felt disrespected by Rick, who told him no, and said, "I'm going to bankrupt him. I'm going to get him for every dime he has. Mark my words." And he went into he was pissed.
Yeah.
And I was just going, bro, this is
a meeting. Everyone.
In front of everybody, where half the place, and if not everybody there, grew up watching Ric Flair. Yeah. Right,
bro.
And so you're saying it in front of the wrong crowd, bro.
Right.
Because I was thinking to myself, okay, he doesn't deserve this. I don't care. He just doesn't deserve this.
And
I thought it was very out of line.
And like you're literally saying, dude, I got into business because of Ric Flair. And like, you're burying this.
Right.
I'm going to quit.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Well, two things, if you guys remember. One was, and there's the quote I remember just from I saw it in a book and stuff, and Eric's talked about it on the podcast. It was basically Ric Flair's, a crook, a cheat, but everyone lets him get away with it because he's Ric Flair, was one thing Eric said. And the other thing was, which offended a lot of guys. Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, everybody let him get away with anything
because he was guys too. It's not like he didn't have heat,
right.
Steiner couldn't stand the guy.
Yeah.
And he also said, which offended a lot of guys there, I'm sure, he doesn't draw anymore. The only three guys in this room that draw money are Hogan, Savage, and Piper.
He did say that.
Yeah.
And I remember people coming up to me and going, he must not know that you drew in Mexico. I said, this is exactly what I said. Why would he? You know what I'm saying?
Plus, Hall and Nash were probably right there. Hall and Nash were major draws for WCW.
Okay, let me tell you this too. Is that they also asked, did Eric ever disrespect Conan or Disco? Well, he fired me. Okay, so but he absolutely disrespected Conan. We had another meeting in Vegas, and he called Raven out. Said, if you want to leave, go leave now. And Raven got up and walked out of the room. Then he called you out in front of everybody. Conan, if you want to leave too, you want to about the Conan. I don't like Eric's like throwing flames. Eric came into that meeting with a flamethrower, right? And none of us, and we all had gasoline on ourselves. Okay, get away from this guy.
What I had heard, and I don't even know if it was from DDP or somebody else, but that DDP had said, "Bro, the locker room's getting out of hand, and you need to make an example of a couple people." And Raven's supposed to be his boy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But and bro, he disrespected me a lot of times, but to tell you the truth, I disrespected Eric a lot of times too, and so I remember one time he was like, "Oh yeah," he goes, "You're lucky to be here and you're not wrestling on some barn in Mexico." I go, "Dude, I've never wrestled in a barn in Mexico," and so that I remember one time, I've told this story before, but he told me and Billy Kidman, this was in, where did the Islanders play? In East Islip?
Long
Where
Island.
did they? Long Island. Uniondale, that's what it was. And he told us there in Uniondale, yeah, you guys are always complaining. I don't remember what it was. And he says, I was going to hire some guys to give you a blanket party. You know, like when they throw a blanket over you and just out
like
of you.
Full Metal Jacket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just two things real quick about that. Raven has said that when this meeting took place, dude had been up for like 2 days straight, just taking, never coming down, just pop, 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 you know. And also that when he got up to leave and he went out, the door closed and he turned to say, man, Conan, that was, and he thought you were with him and you weren't behind him or something like that, you know?
Well, because they were still with me.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Here's the reason I stayed. Because I said, well, if you let Rey Mysterio leave, I'll leave.
Mhm.
He goes, that's not happening.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. All right. So next was Renegade Man. Brock Anderson possibly headed to WWE. Hi, guys. Hope you're doing well. Heard the news that Brock Anderson wasn't re-signed by AEW. I don't think it was a huge loss to the company. But it's WWE's game because the company loves signing wrestlers with family lineage. It's very evident he would join Brian Pillman Jr. in NXT. If Brock were to listen to the podcast or ask for your advice, what advice would you give him to succeed in the wrestling business? I know he's young and NXT contract, from what I heard, aren't expensive, so it's a low risk, high reward. The Performance Center is a huge advantage for him to hone his craft that he probably didn't get in AEW. So, well, first of all, this guy's not a huge gain for WWE would be because the guy's not a good worker. So if you're just thinking like you're picking up Brock, and then plus he has a belly, like he really wasn't in good shape. You know what I'm saying? So this guy needs some work, but it's not a huge gain for WWE just getting Arn. You know, there's tons of second generation wrestlers in wrestling today. Some of them aren't good, and others are. You know,
well, Arn had
this
a
kid's
little.
not that good
Arn
right now,
always
but he
was
can
a
get
little
better.
Arn looked tough, but he always was a little paunchy. You know, he always had a little belly.
Yeah, but he had size on his chest and everything.
He did. He looked tough.
Yep. Right. Yeah.
Bro, but the guy said they should put him up with Pillman. That's not a bad idea. Maybe say, hey, I don't need my last name anymore. From here on out, I'm Haas or some.
Right.
And I definitely put that faction. You know, give him experience, give him the rub. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And maybe put him with Pillman in a faction. You know, and I met him backstage, bro. Very nice guy, but mega bland. I mean, he definitely is Mike Pence. Yeah.
I thought I read that Arn was leaving, but I couldn't find anything about that. But it does say that his contract's up sometime in the first or second quarter of next year.
Armando Ramirez subject is quick story with Vamp. What's up, fellas? I was scrolling through some reels on Facebook and came across this little piece of gold. It's a clip from what I'm guessing is Vampiro's podcast, which is Spanish apparently. Anyway, Vamp basically takes credit for Penta's success because of their feud in Lucha Underground. What do you guys think? Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Vamp saying Penta was too out of shape, chubby to be successful in the U.S. not too long ago? Now he's calling him the biggest lucha star out currently. It's in Spanish, so we don't have to hear this. But what do you think about that he's taking credit for Penta's success? That feud was pretty good, though, in Lucha Underground with him and Vamp. Cool. Would you agree with that, Conan?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, right.
The thing is, I think what he means is that I heard this in an interview once, and I don't know how much of this is true because I was pretty close to management. I would have heard this, but he says that they were going to get rid of Pentagon the next week. I don't understand why, because the guy was popular. And that he said nobody wanted to work with him, which I don't know why nobody would want to work with him because he's easy to work with. Okay, but let's put those two things aside. That he said, I'm going to work with him, which did end up happening. And they had a cool storyline with Vamp, you know, where he turned out being like his mentor, and it was a pretty good story. Yeah. And then what do you call this? They had like this big Extreme Rules match where they broke light tubes and all sorts. It was really crazy, and it got Pentagon really over. So he takes credit for that, which he should. I doubt they were going to get rid of him, but I'd have to ask somebody that would know. So yeah, that's what he's alluding to. He did call him chubby, and Pentagon, who's got a great sense of humor, made up some shirts saying, "Yeah, I'm chubby," but he is the biggest lucha star in Mexico right now.
Nexus and RGX subject is oil of Olay all day, every day. Greetings, crew. Question for Conan. What is all the We're all familiar with the world famous disco list, but what is the likelihood of a K-Dog list? And would you consider DI's parody version of Bow Wow Wow for the first entry? Thanks sincerely, this RGX from the Yay. That was a great video that when I made fun of your music video.
Yeah.
Because the first time you saw it was on the show, right?
Right. And the best part is, this is why I love why me and Disco go way back. Disco's like, you got to watch the video I made.
Right.
So I had no idea this was coming. Right.
Yeah, right.
That was
and
great.
Seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Right.
People can say whatever they want about disco, but I can tell you, around my age group, any wrestling fan over like 30, 33, 35 remembers that. People always remember when disco did the parody. Like, everybody knows about that. Everybody saw it. Everybody liked it, you know?
Right. All right. Yeah. So next is from the last one's from Ramon Sanchez. Subject to Ginger.
But didn't he ask me a question?
Oh, yeah. Well, would you come up with the K-Dog list?
Bro, the show's too long as it is, you know, and no need to make it longer. Good idea, but not for now.
Next is from Ramon Sanchez, subject to Jinder and the Gang. Good evening, fellas. Is it me or is Jinder Mahal and the Monstrous Indian Tag Team managers being booked Tony Khan style? They're here for a squash, then they're gone for weeks or months. I'm trustful of Triple H's booking, but for the most part, do you think they're just waiting for the right storyline to insert them into just like Cross? Thanks, fellas. Be safe. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with them because maybe they're just not. They're telling them what they want from them on TV, and maybe they're going out there and not doing what they want. That could very well be what's happening here.
Now let me ask you a question,
You know?
Disco. Did you watch Raw this week?
Yes, I did.
Were they on Raw?
I don't know because I had the Hulu version, so I did not see them, and I doubt they would be on.
Because he says that they keep bringing back and forth. I haven't seen them in a long time.
They came back a couple weeks ago, I think, for squash.
I don't remember that.
Huh.
I don't remember that.
Maybe it's so quick. You just fast forward. Maybe you did the thing where you walked out of the room like you do with the dogs and stuff, and they came back in and they were gone. So
yeah, but bro, they're always gonna have to use them because India's a huge market, which they just went to and did well in it. And I think there will always be some Indians on the show because of India's global footprint. Absolutely. You know, they're about to be. I think they already passed or about to pass China as the most populous country in the world.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, that's been the mailbag.
Enjoy the rest of the show. Boom.